Let's go ahead and start in on the script. This is going to be one to define a kind of like a light flickering or a lightning bolt flashing type of element inside the scene. Before we do that though, let's do one other thing. To make the lightning bolt really stand out in terms of the brightness effect of it, let's set up the scene so that we have a really darker element. You notice how you can still see these objects? There's not really a actual black shadow inside the scene. If you go up to the edit option and down to our render settings, inside the render settings we had changed our fog. You can also, if you want to change fog, you can go back and forth between linear and exponential. What we had on the ambient light, let's take our ambient lights. If we take ambient light, this is a level light across the scene, how the objects are lit. So if you take it all the way to white, then there's no objects actually being affected by the lights in the scene. If you take it all the way to black though, then all the shadows that are actual shadows become really dark. So we can take this one, we might take it to like just a little bit above. We actually want to try to capture those dark shadows. Alright, so we'll go for something closer to that, really make it feel a little bit more intimidating, a little bit more mood setting. Alright. And then we also want to go to our dynamic light that we currently have in the scene. And let's go ahead and just push Control D to make a copy of it. Alright, so the copy, let's rename this, and we'll call this one, actually we'll say Thunderclap, since we'll be putting that sound to it. So we'll call this Thunderclap. Go ahead and turn off, actually we'll leave the soft shadows on because we'll be turning them on and off. The directional light, the one that's up here, let's go ahead and change the color. Instead of being a bright white, let's actually take that and make it a little bit more of a darker, let's try for a little bit more of a darker blue, somewhere around here. For me, the RGB value is 03088. Alright, so 03088, again we're just kind of creating that sense of nighttime. It gets a little bit darker out. And with the other light, our thunderclap light, what we're going to do is create the script for it, and it's basically just going to turn the light on and off to look like a flash inside the scene. And we may have to add a few more lights. We'll see how it goes here in a little bit. So to make a script inside of the scene, over in our projects, I'm just going to roll these up here. We have a folder called scripts. Just right click on that and do create, and then do C# script, and let's call this one Thunder. We'll do a capital T, we'll say Thunderclap. So a capital T and a capital C there. We just capitalize each of the first letters of the words. You can push enter. It's going to create the script for us. Now for Unity, it already comes with an IDE. It comes with a tool to let you, a text editor, so that you can write in the code for it. It's called MonoDevelop. When you double click on the script, it'll open up for you automatically. And what you should be looking at is something similar to this. We'll see Thunderclap, and then we'll have the class with it labeled here. Now just to make this easy, this is our first script together. So we don't want to get into anything too complicated. We just want to write a couple of lines of code here. What we want to be able to do is turn the light on and off. Now we're not going to really talk about how it works per se. We're just simply going to write some code. I'll go briefly over what we're doing, but we're going to create, actually we'll just create this really straightforward. So we're not going to make any public variables. We're just going to make a couple of private ones. So we're going to make a bool. This is a true or false statement, and I'm just going to say can flicker, and we'll say can flicker is true. And be sure that when you're typing this, that you pay attention to the capitalization. For instance, update has a capital U on it. So I'm going to say update and do you see the little curly cues? These curly cues are right next to the letter P on the keyboard. You'll want to push Shift and then the curly cue, and it'll create those. If you create a square one, those aren't going to be right. They'll give you a little red line on it. Alright, and right below here, we'll do another one called void. Actually, I'm sorry, we'll do one that's going to be an I enumerator. So this is a big word right here. I and E both are capitalized. And then it's numerator right there. And we'll call this flicker with a capital F. So we're going to set up our two methods. These are our two functions that we're going to use for it. And a method or a function is just going to perform a set of operations that we type in. I'm going to say if can flicker. So we're going to do a check to see if we can flicker the light, and if we can flicker it, we're going to set it to false. So we're going to say yes, you can do it once, then turn off. Now we're putting it inside of a enumerator so that we can actually do a wait statement. We can flash the light, and then we can wait for a little bit, and then we can flash the light again. So we'll say light, and the light that we're currently connected to, we're going to say enable it. We're going to turn the light on. And then we're going to do something where we wait, and in order to wait on the programming side, we'll do something that says yield, return new, wait for seconds. And the seconds we're going to wait for is going to be a random range, which means we're just going to wait for a random amount every single time we do it, so that it feels a little more natural, feels a little more like less like someone's trying to animate it directly, but just where it could happen or might not happen. After we wait a little bit of time, we're going to enable the light and turn it off. And then we're going to wait for a little bit more time, which means we're going to yield and do another return new wait for seconds. And we'll do another random range here. This time, let's wait for a little bit, give it a little bit more of a time. We want the light on for really short so it looks like a flash, but when it strikes again, let's actually have it wait for a little bit longer. So we'll say it needs to wait for at least anywhere from 0.1 seconds to 5 seconds. And once it gets done waiting, then we'll turn the ability for it to flicker back on. There we go. And then in our update, in order to make the flicker work, we're going to do something called start coroutine. We'll make a parentheses and do flicker and place it right there. So in terms of code, there's a lot of things happening here, a lot of language elements that if you're very first time to program, don't worry about it. Just simply copy exactly what you see. You just want to make sure you have the right capital letters, make sure you're using you want to use the colon on the end of it, semicolon on the end of it, which is the same one as the colon on the keyboard. Alright, so once you have this in, you can push Control S to save. You want to go back into Unity, and then make sure that you don't see anything red at the bottom bar. You may see something if it shows up as red, then it just means you made there's a spelling error somewhere inside. So you just want to go back to the video, pause on the screen, and just double check yourself. Now with the thunderclap, the game object we made, let's go ahead and just drag the thunderclap script over onto it. So we have thunderclaps clap script right here. With this one on there, we should be able to just push play. And what you should notice now is that you see the little light right here, how it turns on and off on the checkbox. So it's actually just when it gets to a point where it can do it, it will flash, and it starts to give that impression of a lightning bolt striking. So that's going to be our basic setup right there. That gives us our lighting. It gives us a nice little flash that happens with it. The last thing we want to do with it, and we'll give it a try and see how it works here, is that we want to do a play. We want to play an audio file here as well. So let's go ahead and add let's do the add component, and just type in audio source. Alright, so we're going to have the thunderclap audio play in here, but we're going to do it through code. So we're going to close the rollout here, and in the next video we'll walk through setting up the audio to be able to play with it.